Welcome to the Fall Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Blasey, and this is, what episode is this? 112, maybe? I think.
Sounds about right.
We're going to go with 112.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's 112. Yeah, it's 112. So today, I mean, I'm excited. We got Curt Geier on from Working Class Bowhunter.
Yeah.
And I've been looking forward to getting him on. I think this is going to be pretty sweet. He's one of the guys that I kind of looked up to. He's done Working Class Bowhunter for, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years, I think. I've been listening to them ever since kind of when I started listening to podcasts back in like 2015-ish. So he's like one of the first ones that I started listening to, and I enjoy his podcast. It's something a little different, but it's working class. You know, it's guys like you and I just really letting your hair down and just going out hunting and having a good time.
Yeah, and it's, you know, we talked a little bit like about that branding last week, like when I was talking about the YouTube channel, and you know, just call it what it is. And I mean, they nailed it. Like you said, like the hunting public, you could not have hit the mark more perfectly. And these guys, for podcasters, just Working Class Bowhunter, like, you know what you're getting into.
Yep, they perfect. Nailed it for sure.
Yep,
and they have like a lot of, I mean, they've done a lot of episodes. I mean, I want to say they're over 300, maybe even close to 400 episodes. I might be way wrong on that, but I'm almost positive they're like around that 350, 360 range, I think. They got a lot of cool guests on. They got high profile guests, but then they have guys like you and I that nobody's ever heard of and just come on and bullshit with, and they make it work. And it's he was even, you know, talking about some of his co-hosts and how they just say dumb shit sometimes, but like that's like what kind of keeps the morale up, and it's pretty cool. It's just off the cuff and roll with it, you know. Yeah, you got to do that. You got to keep it fresh. Yeah, you got to keep it fresh, and I agree. You know, I do want to talk about something real quick. You did share something on Instagram today, and it was something that I actually had to look back at, and was pretty cool, and I want to read it. And it was actually from Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if anybody knows who Gary Vaynerchuk is, but it's something pretty cool. He posted, and it says, start making content for what you want to be known for, not what the audience is giving you likes for. That's huge. Like, that was just like so cool to like kind of hear that, and it kind of like, in a way, kind of grounds you a little bit, and I think but it does. It's just something cool to think about. Like, you know, sometimes you might be getting out of your own way. And I think you and I, the reason why I bring this up is because you and I have been talking about this for a while, and how we want like the podcast to kind of transition to more of like, you know, BS sessions, and just like guys just sitting around drinking beers. You know what I mean? And that's like, not that we were trying to be something that we weren't before. It's never been like that, but it's not as scripted. Not that we were scripting. I don't know. This sounds terrible.
I know what you're saying.
But like,
we didn't know what to do. Like, we didn't know what we were doing. We knew what we wanted to do, but we didn't know if we were doing it right or wrong. And it's
right.
I don't think it's a matter of like, you know, legitimate right and wrong. It's just a matter of like finding your place and figuring out what your vibe is. That's where I'm at with the whole YouTube thing right now, and it's probably going to suck for a while. Like, I'm trying to keep it as genuine as possible, hunt with my wife a lot, whatever, but I mean, it applies across the board. Videos, podcasts, photography, like whatever. Like, you go back 16 years and look at one of the first videos you ever cut. You know, you're probably going to say, Jesus, that sucks. Like, I can't believe I even, you know, that's what I thought was good back then. I mean, it's just a matter of finding your groove.
I agree, man, 100%. And I think this podcast, you know, last couple podcasts have started kind of going that way, and people have been giving us really good feedback with it, like more feedback about how they love the transition and how we're doing it. And I think we just keep this train rolling, man. And thank you for like sharing that, because that was pretty cool as an eye opener, and just something like, you know, do things for you and how you want them, and don't worry about anybody else, basically.
Yeah,
do it for yourself.
Dude, and I don't want to get too far into this intro, but like that Gary Vee quote today was like, I've been so like, I'm focused on this, but I'm trying not to like overthink it. I'm trying to just figure out what's natural about doing this YouTube thing. Like, I want to brand it, but it needs to be something that, makes sense. Like, it's not going to be like, ultimate space deer hunter outdoorsadventures.com. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
I just want it to be natural. And it's like, I forget what movie it's from. It might be like Point Break or something. Remember that movie with the surfers that robbed banks? Like, one of the guys was teaching somebody how to surf, and it was like, the harder you try, the harder you fail. But the more natural you are, like, you take the wave for what it is and just stay on your feet. And that's how you surf. It's like,
yep.
I'm trying to figure that out right now. So I'm just seeing that quote.
But to kind of further that point, though, too, like, the more you fail, to me, the more you learn.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So the harder you try, the harder you fail, but the more you learn in a lot of aspects.
Yeah. And you know what? One of the things I'm going to bring to my YouTube channel going forward, whether I figure out a name anytime soon or not, like, I'm not just going to put hunting videos out there. Like, I'm going to break down every hunt after I edit it, like Allie's turkey hunt last week. I've got a ton of great feedback, so thanks to anybody who's commented or reached out. Like, I really appreciate it. Like, even guys like a marketing agency here in Iowa was like, dude, I don't watch videos, but like, you had me from the first frame. Like, I watched all 12 minutes of that, and it was badass. It was raw footage, but it was polished like by someone who knew what they were doing. And I was like, thanks. Like, it's the feedback like that makes me say, okay, well, that worked. Like, stick with this, and but I'm gonna bring another. It'll be a separate playlist, but like, I want to bring. I'm gonna call it like the breakdown or something, and I'm gonna bring that like self-filming education aspect to the hunt video. Like, I'm gonna let the video play, but then like a few days later, once it's while it still has some momentum, some traction, go back and do like a picture-in-picture and be like, I only had one lens. I had to know how to shoot for this because it was in 4K. I only had a 70 mil lens. I'm going to edit on a 1080 timeline, so I know I got extra crop, like I can push, and just explain things like whether you have to plan for it or not, or how to, you know what I mean? Just kind of bring some of that stuff that a lot of people don't know about,
for sure.
Or, besides guys like you and I. But like, I've been trying to focus on something else to elevate that. I don't want just a playlist of hunting videos, because I don't think it's really going to last if that's all it's going to be. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yep, I like it. Keep the range broad, and just do things that you're passionate about and a lot about.
Yeah.
So and make it some educational things on it too. People love that.
For sure. Yeah, and I'm no expert, but I've failed enough to have learned a lot. So I mean, I'll share that all day with anybody who wants to watch it. So.
Well, we're failures, so I mean, we failed a lot, so we're learning.
Always learning.
Well, anyway, cool, man. This intro is actually officially like 4 minutes over that. Like we said, we were gonna cut it off, so I say we just cut it off here and get over to this interview with Curt.
Yep. Send it over there. Sorry.
Let's do it, man. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Fall Podcast, and today, Curt Geier is joining us from Working Class Bowhunter. Curt, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it a lot. I've heard good things, so I'm glad that you asked me to be on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Just in brief, or quick here, I mean, Working Class Bowhunters, in my opinion, is one of the OGs. When I started listening to the podcast, I mean, you and basically Kenyans, Wired to Hunt, were the ones that I kind of cut my teeth on, and it's pretty cool to have you on here finally. And it only took me like 112 episodes to get you on, and almost 2 years of doing podcasts, but hey, we're here.
Well, I appreciate that, man. That's a big compliment. We're kind of opposite end of the spectrum from Kenyon, if that's the thing you started on. So,
well,
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, it's like opposite attracts though, because like I have that's like does one thing for me, and yours does another. So it's good. It's a well-rounded machine. So
very cool. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I like to. Being called an OG of podcasting is cool. I don't know.
You're not old. I don't want to make it sound like you're old or anything.
Well, I mean, but podcasting, like the popularity of hunting podcasting is not, it's a new thing. I mean, so if you've been in it for over 5 years, I guess you kind of are an OG, you know?
Yeah. Yep. For sure. Definitely. Well, we were just doing a recording here and just kind of got caught up in a good conversation. And Justin just asked you a question. I want you, if you remember the question, to kind of let's start there where it was and answer that bad boy, if you would.
Yeah, I think it was how I make my moves on a whitetail, or how I know when to make a move.
Yeah, when do you know when to be aggressive and when to be cautious? And, it's one thing to be able to make that determination, in the moment based on body language, when you see an animal, but as far as overall hunting the animal, pressuring and, intel, recon, running cameras, what's your I don't know, strategy, I guess?
I'm honestly, I feel like I'm fairly malleable. I don't have one hard thing that I stick to. You know what I mean? I don't have that's the thing that I do, which I don't know if that's even a right thing to do, to have one thing you always go to. Maybe it is in a tough situation. I'll use my past season kind of as an example. I was hunting this buck that I called Creepy. I kind of had a few year history with him. He's just kind of a unique deer, a real weird guy, but he was fairly, as he got older and more mature, he was pretty elusive, and I didn't see him at all last year, and got a couple sightings and some good trail cam pictures of him this season. And my strategy on him, I stayed on fringes of everything. I didn't really jack around in the timber really at all. And because of that, I got to see him out in the open. It was actually Black Friday, I believe, was the first time I saw him on the hoof in daylight. And I saw where he came out of. And that right there showed me, I'm like, well, he came out of there. That's the one spot that I haven't hit hard. I found a shed close to his shed the previous year, close to that area. So that kind of gave me a tip on where I think I'd probably have to apply the aggression when I felt the time was right. Right. So what I did was I put some trail cams in some potential spots where I was going to hang a stand and hunt. And sure enough, just within a week, that tipped me off, and that's when I made my move and got in there. So I guess in that situation, I kind of did a little bit of the old fringe, what do they call it? An observation stand, if you will. Saw where he was, and I was like, okay, there it is. That's where I get aggressive, and that's where I applied it. And I think I shot him December 8th or December 9th. I can't remember. But,
damn.
So that was more of oh, there he is. That's where he came from. This is what I think I need to do. Then once I had the proof of that's where he is, let's go after him. I was honestly a little too scared to go in hard after him before knowing that and seeing where he came out of initially, because I was really worried about bumping him on the neighbors. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
no, it definitely does. It's interesting to hear, people's different perspectives on how to hunt, not just a mature deer, but deer in general. I came to Iowa 2 years ago, and I was not much of a mobile hunter prior to being here. I hunted, dairy farms back in New York where I grew up, and it was ladder stands that I'd put up on places that had permission to hunt, and typical spots looking at beaver dams and crossings and swamps and cornfields and, just hoping for the best. But
yeah,
I learned a shit ton coming to Iowa and just not knowing the ground, just playing the public land game and staying mobile. But it seems like there's always there's a rhyme or reason based on everyone's situation.
For sure. Well, I think a lot of people, with the experience comes different tricks in your bag, right? That, might come up in a certain situation. If a deer's doing something, you see him moving a certain way on a certain wind, you're going to tackle every situation a little different. But I think there's a lot of people with a lot of experience that, and maybe I'm only the only guy who does it and they might think I'm an idiot, but I apply a lot of hunting basically just putting time in to learn a lot every season, because earlier, not everything always applies. So if I'm hunting a new spot, I don't know anything about it, and say whatever piece it is, I'm going to hunt a shit ton to try and learn it and see how the deer move it. And that might shoot me in the foot sometimes. But then it's also really helped me, probably more times than not. So, but I hunt a shit ton, but hunt smart about it. I'm not walking through like an asshole on a terrible wind through a spot. And I'm kind of using just accumulated, I don't want to say basic knowledge, but accumulated knowledge of how deer use wind and terrain and all that to hunt a shit ton, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And then you wait for that opportune moment, or a deer that might reveal himself to you while you're doing that, and then say, "Yep, that's time to go. We got to get in."
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Are you waiting for that time? Like, let's say, you got dibs, or you have history, a bead on a buck throughout the summer. You're watching them, you got them on trail cam, stuff like that. But are you, even if you think you have like a pretty good idea of like, I'm pretty sure he's right in this area, are you still trying to stay back a little bit and you have to see him make that move before you do anything? Or are you kind of like getting more aggressive and jumping in?
I would say it just depends, right? So if it's October 5th and I got trail cam picture, if I know like, oh yeah, he's there, I got pictures of him in velvet, because in Illinois we can't use mineral or supplemental feeding. So a lot of it's like, if I get a trail cam picture of a buck, it's fairly natural movement, right? So if I know he's doing something October 5th in the afternoon, he's there in daylight, like, yeah, I'm going to get aggressive. But if I know he's in there, but I haven't got like the tip off yet, it all just depends. It depends on my mood too. Sometimes I might just be like, I'm going for it. I'm just going to go after it. But I'd say more times than not, I'm going to dance around and taper in my aggression as I learn more, as I get, I guess, more honed in.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. And it's definitely, for me, like a very situational thing. And I think a lot of people, it's very situational too. So it's, there's some guys out there that are like, they need the black and white answer. They like need, X plus, Y equals whatever it's like, that's how hunting is like. But no, it's to me, it's like more situational. So like in Michigan, hunting high pressure here, I do tend to stay back quite a bit until I do see a deer do a movement, and then jump in and then try to get right in there. But like when I was hunting Iowa last year, I went in, I did hang an observation stand, but I knew I was in the thick of things, or I could kill, but I could still see good. And then once I saw the deer that I was after, make a move, I moved right then. That morning when he went by me, I moved and ended up killing him that next midday the next day in that stand. So I feel like
that's awesome.
Feel like it's very situational. But I always like to pick guys' brains though too. Like, and I know that's kind of a hard question to ask or answer, because every situation is different and everybody, it's all relevant, Yeah,
it's not copy paste to every deer, to every property, to every area, every state.
Yeah.
That's something I hang out with the Quisto boys a lot, and that's something I always hear. I mean, it's something that in my head always makes sense and something I always do, but kind of asking, because I do the DeQuisto series podcast with those guys. So when listeners asking, hey, I saw a buck do this, how much time do you give them before you move in? And I like how they break it down, because it's almost like, well, why would you even have to think about it? Like, get after it. If he's there, you saw him do something, why aren't you there?
Right.
Like, get in there and kill him. So like that kind of is like, well, yeah, that is the common sense thing, but I know most people are hesitant to do it, or the situation doesn't always apply that way. So, but that's the cool thing about bow hunting, man. When you're trying to get in close on them, on a mature buck, it's tough, man. And as soon as you think they're doing one thing, you move in there and they do the complete opposite.
Yep. Very humbling.
It is. Yeah. That's why if anyone ever is like, oh, I got this whitetail thing figured out, like, you're kind of just like, oh, yeah.
You're high.
I bet you do, man.
You don't have it figured out.
Right. No one does.
No. And that's like something, Justin and I talk about it quite a bit too, is like how hunters overcomplicate things, and it's just like, it's the easy thing to do. I mean, I find myself laying in bed at night, getting ready to go hunting the next morning, still looking at maps on my phone, like, where the fuck am I going to go sit? And I'm trying to get into like a 10-acre patch of timber. It's like, how many different places can you go sit? So it's like,
you sound like me. You sound exactly like me, man. Because I'll call my dad, or if my dad and I are hunting together, we'll get up. I'm like, man, I was going to go to whatever stand, but I don't know. I thought about hanging a stand over here. Or just go with your original plan. That's what he always tells me. Just stick with your plan. You just talked me through it. It made sense. Stick with it.
Yeah.
So
that's my experience. Is usually your first reaction or your gut instinct is the right one. It's that. I mean, I'm the worst. Like, second guess yourself to death.
To death.
Yeah.
I ordered bowstrings today for a bow I don't even have yet, and I sat there for 4 hours playing with different color options. I was like, this is stupid.
Well, do you guys ever do this? Like, I'm sure you guys all have a circle of guys that you call when you're second guessing a game plan.
100%.
Like guys you trust, guys,
Yep.
Guys that you care about their opinion. And I have a few of those guys on my speed dial or my favorites list. And I'm like, man, I did it with my buck that I call it creepy. I talked about earlier. Hey man, I saw him do this. Like, I'm going to do this. What would you do? They're like, well, yeah, I would do the same thing you're going to do. I'm like, all right, cool. I just needed someone to be like, that's a good plan, even though I already made my plan.
Yep.
So
I call it the second opinion circle. Those are the guys that I call.
Yep. They get called for the game plan before you go in to try and kill a buck, and they get called after the shot. If you're I always doubt myself for some reason, even if the shot's perfect. And then you call that circle for you to get down. This is where the shot was. Yep. This is how he acted. This is, XYZ.
You're like downloading anatomy pictures and shit like that. Like, fuck, I thought it was like quartering away, but I don't know.
Exactly.
Like, fuck. Yeah, dude, I do it all the time. I think everybody does, but I don't know how many times I've sat, doing a hang and bang or something like that and getting in an area and it's like, okay, that tree looks good, but man, does that one look good there too? And it's like, and then you like start breaking down the pros and cons of each tree. Like, what if he comes from here? What if and it's like, goddamn, just get up there and just sit it, I don't know.
Oh, dude, I did that exact thing before I killed that deer because I went in, hung my stand, and killed him like 2 hours later. And there was one, none of the trees were perfect. It was one of those trees that splits off from the base into 3 different trees. And I had to kind of like jump up into that split, then hang my first stick out of that split and then climb. And it was like an angled tree and it just wasn't perfect. And I did that whole thing. I'm like, man, I have 2 shooting lanes up here. That's normally how you kill them,
Yeah.
Make a move like that when they're not expecting it. And hopefully you can slide an arrow through.
Yeah. How often do you look at historical data? Like you talked about that buck creepy, you had a shed from him and it was in that same area. So like you saw the deer move or do that move. And then you're like, you probably immediately felt like, well, shit, I have a shed from, however far away from that sighting. Are you like taking that into consideration or did that almost become like a hindrance where it's like overcomplicating? Like how did that play out?
That deer was unique because when I first really knew about him, he was a buck that like wasn't even on the radar to shoot. Like he was real weird and real unique looking, and he had just his body had a real unique look. His eyes were like black and like empty looking, and that's how I named him Creepy. He just looked weird, and it's hard to explain. I'll show you some pictures, but he had like a weird head shape. The hair on his face was different colored. He's real strange. And when I guessed him to be, it would have been 2 years ago before I killed him. He almost ran me over. Like I was walking through the woods and he like met me face to face. So I thought something was wrong with him for a couple of years, honestly. And he was kind of all over the place. So I just was all over every single trail cam I had. I saw him everywhere I went, walking in and out. He'd just be in the middle of the field. I'm like, well, what the hell is he doing over here? And, so yeah, like he was weird. So he was so sporadic, but then when I found his shed and then had some trail cam pictures of him, I never saw him the year I found the shed though, but I found that shed there. Then the following year, the year that with the rack that I ended up killing him with, I was starting to get pictures in that area and where I thought he was bedded and spent the majority of his time. That was like one of the only spots I really hadn't intruded on or spent any time in. So I knew that this pocket that I hadn't touched was probably where he was living. And that's why when I did see him come out of there, I was like, okay, my suspicions were correct. And that's why I did what I did. So yeah, a little bit with that deer is unique. Like I knew he might be in an area, but of course I always look back on old trail cam pictures for historic data and that motivate me. Right.
Right.
But It's not too common that I get to follow a deer for over the years. You know what I mean? Mostly for me, it's every year brings a new situation or a new buck.
For sure. Yeah, I totally get that. And there's a novelty to me for like following a buck year after year. Like I just think it's like sometimes I get just too wrapped up into it and like you almost get intimate with that deer. Like you name them, you know what I mean? Like people call me crazy for naming deer and it's like, well, do you want me to fucking say the big 8? Like how many big 8s are out there? Like, Justin calls me like, oh yeah, I saw big 8 2.0. Like, no, it's like, you saw like Sparky,
exactly.
It's just easier, but you almost get intimate and it's like, I don't know. I've been filming since I was 16. I'm 33 now. And it's like, I've always kind of been a storyteller, so I like to like that just adds to the story, you know what I mean? Instead of just having...
Yeah, it's a little flavor to it.
Yeah, instead of just having like a random buck. Like I shot a buck in Kansas this year, didn't know one thing about the deer. He just showed up. I literally pulled my bow up, was knocking an arrow, and the guy that was filming me was looking. I was like still wiping the sweat off my face from climbing up the tree, and he goes, buck coming down the trail or coming down the logging road. He came to 4 yards, and I smoked him right there. Never saw a deer before in my life, and I'm like, man, we're done. That was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. But, yeah, I mean, that's how a lot of my bucks have been kind of, I know I'm in a good spot, like I've done my homework, and, you know, most of the problem is I don't have big enough property that deer stay there for very long, so that's a lot of my kills. You know, I have a few, you know, I guess I have probably half and half, like other deer I knew about and stuff like that, but I'll take those, you know. If a random buck wants to show up at 15 yards,
oh yeah,
I'll take that all day.
Yeah, I'm not going to discriminate at all. I mean, I'm going to oblige by throwing something through his chest cavity, but I like it. So
for sure.
Are you a public land hunter too, or are you just like strictly private, or do you do both?
For whitetails, I hunt my little farms for private. That's really all I've dabbled with. There is some public not really in my area, like probably an hour each direction. I got like north south. I got some decent public ground, but I haven't really dabbled. It's hard for me to leave deer to go find other deer.
I'm right there with you. Yeah, I've been fighting with this with Justin. I'm like, I go and scout public land in Michigan around here, and I'm like, I get that like that bug. I'm like, I want to go find something new. Like, let's go find something. Then it's like, I get trail cam pictures of bucks that I really want to chase on private, and it's like, why the hell am I leaving these deer to go hunt on public land where? And it's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Every year it happens, man, and I haven't hunted public yet.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get why guys do hunt public ground, but I'm definitely not a guy that's going to hunt public ground just to post on social that I'm on public ground.
Yeah.
You know, like if I know of some ground where some big deer live that's public, and you know, I keep that in my pocket. I'm like, man, I got my mobile set up. I might go make a move and just see what's going on in there. You know, that's always the question. But then I'm like, man, but I know this spot could be really good over here, and I know my other spots already, you know. So that's cool. I've hunted some public out west and stuff like that, but I know that's a different ball game than it is in the Midwest for whitetails. But you know,
yeah, it's something I definitely want to do someday.
Yeah, like have you ever seen that Will Ferrell commercial where he's in the Mississippi River? It's something I want to do.
Yep, love it. It's a good one. Yeah, no, the public land thing, I get why people do it, you know, and with his point, you know, he's in Iowa, doesn't have any private land, so public's, you know, right up his alley.
For sure.
And I'll tell you what, for him, and I'll speak highly of him here, I mean, just for doing it the last couple of years, he's been very successful at doing it on the ground and from a mobile set. Like he's got it done. It's been pretty cool to watch and just kind of ride along with them, you know, with it, doing it.
Yeah, I'm definitely rooting for those public guys, man. There's a lot more challenges and just different sticks always getting tossed in your spokes that way. But, you know, there's also certain pieces of public that I know don't get hunted hard that I should go in there and check out and probably hunt. But like, yeah, just like you said earlier, go in circles with it. It's like, I'm not going to leave deer for other deer when I know these deer.
Yeah. No, trust me, if I had private land or if I had a farm of my own, I would probably spend the next 3 years developing that and, you know, learning that and just learning it very well. Like,
yeah,
I like the public land game, and I love whitetail hunting. It's my thing. Like, I love Western hunting. I do like 1 or 2 trips a year, but whitetails I'm a whitetail guy.
Yeah, and for sure. It's the king of.
I don't love it for 5,000 an acre, but
yeah, definitely. It's cool, man. Like I hunt, I don't own any farms, so I just have like, oh yeah, you can go here, and you know, having permission on property like that, it always cycles. Like you can hunt there for a couple of years, then you can't hunt there, but then you pick up this other piece. So I'm used to dancing around on small pieces of private. But you know, I've talked about this before. I think small pieces of private and public all have their challenges in different ways, and I think that guys that hunt private kind of have a shock when they go to a piece of public. And then guys that are used to hunting large pieces of public land come to a 30-acre piece of private, and they might be pretty shocked and surprised that, you got to be all over your P's and Q's when you go in to try and hunt the same deer over and over again on 30 acres.
It's difficult. It can be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you mess up a couple of times and he might just live on a property that you can't go to that you can see from your stand. So you got to really think about things before you just make stupid decisions. So
yeah,
that's true.
It really
Very
is.
true.
I do want to transition a little bit. I want to go back to the complicating thing and like the second guessing. Like I've been second guessing some things and still like right now I was fighting with myself and getting second opinions and stuff like that. But like when you're out there, trying to make a decision, whatever it might be, like where, and you're just fighting with yourself. What is that, like maybe that deciding factor? It's like, God damn it, just do it, or is it just one of those things like it might feel so weird, like you've never done that before and you don't think it's going to work? Does that make sense? Like,
I think so. I guess let me answer it and then I'll see if I'm understanding what you're trying to get at. I think my curiosity as like just wondering what I might see, like, I don't know about that spot. Just sit there. Who knows? Like guess and check.
Yep.
Because I've hunted in some spots that I've considered like fairly bizarre, like out in the middle, like just a clump of oaks out in the middle of all these fields. And you're like, I doubt I'll see anything. And you go out there and you might see a really good buck and be like, oh shit, he's living in here. Like so random, nothing's going to get to him, or he's going to know it if something's going to get out there to him. So like just odd stuff like that, or stuff that I feel weird about. Like I might just try it out of curiosity to see, because you might learn something.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I was trying to get at. And I explained it terribly, but, my biggest thing right now is second guessing. Is I don't consider myself a mobile hunter right now. I'm the only time I get mobile is if I'm hunting out of a set stand and I see a deer do something, I move. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of my mobile, but it's
that's
something
effective though, man.
Dude, I killed the best deer in my life last year in Iowa doing it, and I saw him for 2 days, and he kept doing for 2 days. He did the same thing. And I moved and killed him at 3:30 the second day. He went 186, just a absolute slammer. And
yeah, a legit slammer.
Yeah, and I never expected that, And I was 8 feet off the ground in a cedar tree with no sticks. I just climbed up, using limbs and hung the tree and killed him that next day. But like
that's awesome.
Yeah, I want to put mobile hunting into my repertoire, like actually putting a stand on my back and going in and just picking a spot and going. But like in Michigan, high pressure and stuff like that, I guess the biggest thing that I'm fighting with is like I want to be able to, if I need to, slip in real quiet and just climb up the tree. Like I feel like I'm going to be so loud hanging a tree and a stand, and it might take a little longer. I don't get a lot of time to hunt, and when I do, I just try to cherish it and try to be as effective as I can. But like, I don't know, I've been picking everybody's brain. Justin's probably sick of hearing me talk about it. But like,
well, you know what you just said, I would guess, and there's going to be some guys screaming when they hear me say this. I would guess most people that consider themselves mobile hunters probably hunt how you just described, because. And which is fine. I still consider that mobile. Like you are willing and able to make a move on a deer. It's not because, you're doing it that way because you're making your move when you know it's right or when it's the most effective. Kind of like what I described earlier. Hanging and hunting every time, setting up, pulling down is exhausting. It is effective, but it can be exhausting no matter what setup you have. If you do that every sit, if you hunt a lot, but it's all situational again. You could go into a spot is hot, get in there, see a buck do one thing because you went and did like a hang and bang, pull down next day, do it again, and then kill them. That's probably how a lot of that happens. But either way, I still consider that both mobile. It just depends on to what level.
Right. Are you hunting set stands as well?
Both.
I
keep I keep my custom gear set up like ready to rock in my truck. It stays there. I hunted actually almost everything I hunted last year was a hang and bang. I did leave the one I did see that deer from. I ended up leaving it there. And then I keep my custom setup. I end up leaving it there because I did kill a buck there actually, and I left it and I realized how good of an observation spot it was. I killed a good 10-pointer about a month before I killed that buck creepy. But my custom gear, my true mobile setup, always stays in the chamber in the back of my truck. So when I go to make a move or I have an idea, it's there and I'm going in.
I gotcha.
So a little of both.
I gotcha. Justin, were you going to say something? I kind of cut you off there.
Oh, I was going to say I'm here to tell you right now that it's excruciating setting up and tearing down every single time all season long.
Dude, it'll burn me out.
You factor in multiple states and doing that, and oh my God.
You know what's worse is if you don't put it on social media every time, you know?
Right. You got to let people know you're doing it the hard way.
If you're going to put the work in, you better get some attention for it on the Facebook.
Yep.
Right.
On the IG of the Book of Faces, definitely gotta do that. I guess to kind of stay on this topic a little bit. So, you know, I know you're probably hunting a lot of the same properties like year after year, so you probably know them pretty good. But like even on my family farm that I've been hunting and cutting my teeth on my whole life, like I'm turning over leaves still like today that I like, you know, deer change, like their patterns change like a ton, you know, and right now our property is getting logged off, like not the whole thing, but a good portion of it. So it's going to change the deer movement quite a bit, but I'm turning leaves over right now that spots that I've never hunted in, you know, the 20 years that I've hunted. But like are you going in like right now or, you know, in the off season and looking at a map and being like, okay, I want to get in this area. You go boots on the ground. It's like, okay, I think that's going to be the stand. Do you go and trim that out and not hang a stand, just kind of preparing yourself? Like when you come back to be mobile, you can just hang it and you know you got lanes? Or is it just one of those things, just run and gun, stay the hell out of there as much as you can?
I'll be 100% honest. I don't fuck around on my properties much at all in the summer, like very minimal. I don't really have properties that are set up to like glass from a certain area. I don't have a lot of properties with ag fields on them where, like, you know what I mean, where bucks are going to be out in velvet on beans. And I don't really have properties that are visible like that. The property I grew up on hunting and I still have access to is pretty much all timber and ravines and big oaks and stuff throughout it. So I guess for the most part, yeah, like the recipe is kind of the same, but the caliber of deer I hunt every year changes. And I've kind of learned how mature deer use that ground separate from does and fawns and young bucks and stuff like that. So I would say, yeah, like most part, everything's kind of, I'm learning more every year and how a deer might use it to go from point A to point B to the neighbor's piece. What do they have over there this year type of thing? You know, that changes every year too. What pressure's that piece getting over there that might push something here or make the deer move a little different from mine to their place. So, you know, I also, most of my stuff is on the fly. Like I wouldn't never go to a spot and trim all the limbs and stuff out and then in plans of coming back to it. Gotcha. Because it might not fit into my game plan when it's time to make a game plan.
Yeah, and that makes total sense because that's another thing. I'm like, you know, when you're in any scenario, but I think first high pressured because that's where I'm doing a lot of my hunting. So it's like I need to stay the hell out as much as I can, you know. And I've been buying some cell cams and just putting them in areas so I don't even have to go in anywhere. But I think that's another thing. Like the mobile deal is like, you stay the hell out of there. You're not going back there hanging stands, trimming lanes. And, you know, that could be 2-3 trips a summer just in one spot. It's like stay out of there and just get in there. And everybody always says it's, you know, first sit in, it's the best sit, you know, so.
Yeah. Yep. A piece that I hunt on both sides of it, I won't say like exactly what's on both sides of it because it'll give away like where I hunt and just there's local people that want to find out where I hunt.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean? So both the neighboring properties to where I hunt are both like a public access type event type areas, outdoor event stuff. So until the weather is too cold for people to be outside, like recreationally, there's just pressure on both sides running deer around. So I do kind of stay out and stay minimal on pressure until it's too cold for people to be out. Then I can make my moves a little better on that piece. So that changes things a little bit for me as well on how deer use that property. So I'm always trying to learn. I'm never going to something closed-minded like I know it already. And I think everybody probably should have that mindset.
Dude, that makes a ton of sense. Like, I'm glad you just said that, kind of, be open-minded, because that's one thing, like, year after year, like I said, like, I was the guy too. I mean, in the past, it's like these deer are going to be doing this and doing this every year. That's what they do. They're habitual and stuff like that. But it's like some deer, yes, but like you have to adapt. You have to go in there with an open mind, and you have to just kind of roll with the situations you get, if that makes sense. And I think the best hunters are probably the ones that can adapt the best to any situation.
I think too that a lot of people always, and I don't know if you would agree with this, but I find, well, like when you talk to people at bars or something like that's a bad example, I guess. But when you talk to some people are so cocky and arrogant about hunting that it's kind of painful to talk to some people about it, because they're just like, they know it all. Or like, if you ask me right now on this piece that I plan on hunting this fall, hey, what buck you have? I don't have one on there right now. I'm going to figure it out though.
Yep.
Like I'm going to go in, put in some work, and I'll figure something out. I can't guarantee that I'll kill them, but I'll see one.
Yeah.
I'll figure out where one's at. And, if I get in there and kill them, it's great. But I might go in there and bust them in the next county, whatever I tried. But I think a lot of people are scared to admit that they don't actually fucking know. But I'm going to put the work in to try and figure it out.
I agree. Like, everybody doesn't want to be transparent or like be honest, and it's like, because you might be vulnerable because you're supposed to be this big hunter, this big man that does.
I just think they don't want to admit it. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's just
100%
owning it, man. They don't want to come off not knowing what people think they know.
For sure. For sure. I mean, I'll admit it. I don't, certain things, I'll just say I don't know. It's easier to be honest about a situation and say, hey, I don't know, but I might figure it out, because that is the truth. I'm going to try my damnedest to figure it out. But I don't know. It's like we talked about earlier. If anyone ever says they know exactly what's going on, they're full of shit.
Yeah. And when we started this podcast too, like I wanted to get guys on that that are masters in their class, I guess you could say. Like, but the thing is, every time you get a guy on, I just want them to speak from their experiences, and that's all I want to speak from. It's like, I'm not going to speak to you about hunting spring bears because I've never done it. I've never hunted a spring bear. You know what I mean? I can only tell you what the experiences I've been through, and that's why I always say, like, I don't want to come off as this arrogant, egotistical, like, know-it-all. Like, I hope I don't come across as that. I've been fortunate enough to be put into a position where, with my job for the last 9 years, I've been on some of the best whitetail farms in the U.S. and have seen a lot of deer. I've filmed quite a big, like, some 200-inch deer die, like 3 booners, like I've, even though I wasn't pulling the trigger, like, I'm still invested, and still, like, the guy that I film, him and Casey and I, like, we're really good friends, and we bounced shit off each other all the time. It's like, he's not just the one, like, okay, you film and, like, I'm hunting. It's never been like that. It's always like a teamwork. And it's like, if he's pulling the trigger, it's always like, if it feels like we're doing it together, so I can only talk to, like, about those experiences that I've had. And that's what I think is so unique.
I'm sure you have a ton of experiences, like, in your knowledge bank, that you probably have so many of them that you don't even think about until somebody says something or asks you a specific question.
Yes.
You're like, oh yeah, this one time.
Yes, 100%. I mean, I couldn't even say it any better. It is. It's like, I had a guy ask me about calling to a buck. Like, what do you use when you're calling to a buck and stuff like that? And I'm like, well, it depends on the situation, but
I was going to say, it's such a blanket question.
It is. And I said, well, I can give you a scenario that I had 2 years ago with a buck. He come out in a bean field. I had a decoy out in front of me, and he couldn't see me. I was on a field edge. And in my opinion, I think, if my idea was, like, I'm going to hit a couple soft grunts, like tending grunts, just to get his attention, to let him know I'm over here. I want him to see this decoy, because I felt like he was I knew what deer it was, and I feel like he was going to get pretty aggressive. So I hit a grunt. He kind of looked up my way, and I didn't want to make any noise when he's looking my way. I feel like it's just a blowhorn up there, like, hey, I'm over here kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm in the air.
Yeah, exactly. And he put his head down, and I hit him with 2 grunts, and he looked back up, and he kind of got a little more interested, took a step towards me, went back to eating. And then I kind of like leaned away from him and just really got aggressive. And he looked up, took 1 step, and he saw the decoy and came on a rope right at me, so, and it worked. I was trying to film myself, and I should have just said, screw the camera, and I should have killed him, but, camera saved that deer. But anyway, like I can only speak to that. And if it was a scenario to where like somebody asked me a scenario, maybe Casey was hunting and I was filming it, I would bring that up. Like, I didn't do this, but I was like here while it happened, and this is what happened, and this is what I can tell you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you lived an experience like that, to experience that much whitetail interaction and like body movement and stuff, man, whether you're killing them or not, that's huge for the knowledge bank, because like everything you just explained, that's, if I like talked to a dude at a bar, said, I'm like, damn, you really understand like deer body language. You could have sat there and grunted at that dude like you were blowing a trumpet, and he'd have been out of there, He would have just kept moving. But it's different when you talk to people that have lots of whitetail experience, like more fine-tuned bow hunting whitetail experiences like that. You can you have conversations with those people differently than like a newer hunter or someone that's just generically asking you hunting questions.
For sure.
Because you kind of skip past like known basics is like probably a bad term, but there's almost like a basic level of hunting knowledge that experienced hunters have already. And it's kind of like you talk on a step above that basic level. I don't know if that makes any sense.
100%. No, it does. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and
a lot of it is like it goes without saying type of thing.
Yeah, and honestly, I can't talk about hunting public land because I've never done it. So that's why I talked to Justin about that. So, he's done it more than I have. And I like to get the public land guys on the podcast because I don't know, I could go into a piece of public and kind of break down like the terrain and everything, because it's kind of like you said, kind of some basic knowledge, or some knowledge that it's. So I could do that, but I don't know the first thing about hunting, public in Minnesota or even Michigan. I've never done it, so I wouldn't be the guy to talk to about that.
Yeah, you'll never hear me give a public land guy a tip on hunting public land. There's nothing I can tell that guy.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I can give maybe an opinion, but I'm not going to tell him, hey, you need to go here, because I don't actually know.
Yeah, unless he asks your opinion, like, what do you think I should do in this scenario? And I'd be like, well, here's my best guess. Like, this is what I would. Yeah. This is what
You're in the second guess call circle, or whatever you call it.
Yeah. Yep, the second guess circle. Yeah. No, that's cool. It's pretty crazy how you bring up the guy at the bar and stuff like that. You feel like you run into those guys like a lot. Like,
I've had so many terrible experiences, man. I hate to say that. Just being honest, though.
Yeah. Yep. And that's why you kind of keep your circle pretty tight. The guys that you can get along with and kind of think the same way you do, and you just kind of weed those other guys out.
Yeah. I mean, you still have the conversation and all that stuff, but it's just different. Yeah. I remember leaving the bar one time when I first moved to Sherrard, Illinois, when it's actually where we started the podcast. And Steve, my co-host, he's a pretty green hunter, and he fully admits it. It's kind of a cool dynamic, but we left the bar one time. I'm like, I'm never talking about hunting at a bar again with just random people. He goes, yeah, okay, I don't blame you. Like, he's like, I was eavesdropping on some conversations, and that was rough.
Yep. Yeah, I get it for sure.
It probably makes me sound like a dickhead, but I'm kind of kidding when I say it, but if you've been in that situation, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What is your plans coming up this fall? Like, what do you got for hunts? Are you staying in Illinois? Are you going to do some out-of-state stuff?
In 3 weeks, I leave to hunt black bears in Wyoming, which I've never done before. I've never hunted black bears. So that'll be cool. I'm going with a couple of my good buddies, Clint Casper, Devin Leonard, Austin Chandler, Ross Bigger, some of my buddies. So we're doing like a horseback in and hunting black bears, which will be really cool.
That's badass, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. Really excited. And then this fall, I don't know, man. Like, I hunted antelope last year for the first time, and I think I really want to do another antelope hunt. And and then just get home and chase whitetails around. I think that's the loose plans for right now.
Yep, for sure. Dude, after that bear hunt, I want to get you back on and pick your brain about that, because that's a cool like horseback in. I know Justin, he's been doing some bear hunts out west. Where'd you go last year, Justin? Was it Wyoming you went to?
Montana.
No,
Montana.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going again this year. I just bought a tag. They just reinstated non-resident license sales on Thursday last week. So Friday morning, 8 a.m., I bought one. And same deal, Curt. 3 weeks, I'm headed to Montana.
Oh, awesome, man. That'll be cool. It's That's why I didn't even plan that hunt at all. Like 2 weeks ago, my buddy Clint Casper's like, we're going bear hunting. Wyoming's the only state out there for bears that's open still. And I'm like, okay, let's go. And it literally happened with like 24 hours. I had a flight and a hunt booked and we were going. So It was pretty cool.
That's sweet. Yeah, we might have to have you back on and talk about that. That's cool.
Yeah,
it was a learning experience for sure.
How many times have you been out there?
One. I've never been to Montana in my life, and I went out last year by myself.
Oh man, that's awesome. So you're spotting stock out there.
Yeah, I'm a bow hunter, like whitetail. I'm primarily bow hunting, but never having done it before, and like I had 3 days to hunt, so I drove 15 hours out there one way to hunt for 3 days. I'm like, I'm taking a gun. I'm not messing around. I don't know what I'm getting into. Like, I took my rifle and I only hunted afternoons just because I was staying at a friend's house and it was like a 30-minute drive, and there's enough access out there. You can get far enough away and just walk,
right,
Forest Service roads. So that's all I did, and I used base map, and I just looked at the burns, and like I hunted old burns. I just walked logging roads. Like I just looked for green. I looked for high elevation meadows, like off of very popular hiking trails. Like here's me just packing up, a full pack with a 308 strapped to it and Hunter Orange. Like, people coming by on mountain bikes and people and their kids and like side eyeing me. Like, what the hell is this guy doing? Psycho.
Side eyeing you.
Yeah. It's Sasquatch.
Well, it's just like I was the only person on the trail with a gun. It's like not just one gun. I had two. I had my pistol and my rifle, and they're like, these people are just like, oh my God, a hunter.
Hurry up, eat your granola. We need to move by, honey.
Yeah, pretty much. But I don't know. I saw bears every day, and I had my first encounter with a grizzly. My first day out there, first grizzly I ever saw, and it was a badass trip, man. It was invigorating. It was awesome.
That's one thing. I guess there's going to be grizzlies where we're going. We're going over bait. My buddy Clint, he's been to Montana, I think 3 times for spot and stock. And I think it was Montana. He told me the success rate for bow hunting is like 3%.
Really?
Yeah, I believe that. It's
for spot and stock.
No,
that's crazy.
Yeah, I believe that.
And he's a good bow hunter too.
Yeah, I don't know. The rifle hunts I've seen, like I was watching a ton of YouTube videos before I went, and it was like these guys are taking between 5 and 900 yard shots. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm screwed. Like,
yeah, that's extreme. Well, cool, man. That's awesome. You went out there like on your own. That's pretty inspiring.
Yeah, I did the same thing in September. I went back and I spent the whole month of September in Montana by myself. I filmed a couple people and then I hunted by myself for a week, and I don't know, it was badass. Like I was in my element.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Fun.
Do it while you don't have kids,
man. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool, man. Well, we're getting up here in about an hour, Curt. I want to be conscious of your time as well, and I'm going turkey hunting in the morning. Bro. I'm going on 4 hours of sleep, so.
You gotta get it, man. Gotta get it.
Yep. I appreciate you coming on and doing this, man. And like I said, we should if you're willing, re-up this and maybe do it after your bear hunt and kind of pick your brain about that, maybe. For
sure. Yeah. Then we'll have to get you here on working class.
Yeah, that'd be great. If
get you guys both on there.
Yeah, that'd be sweet, man.
That'd be awesome. I'm subscribing to your YouTube channel right now.
Yeah, our YouTube is like the lamest thing of all time. So do what you will.
Ours is too. The podcasts get uploaded there, and then they just sit there. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I know you guys are video guys, but I'm just not. I like the traditional just audio podcast. It's just, I don't know what, I just like that. That's what they're for, and I know my lane, so I stick there.
Yep. Yeah. I get it, man. Yeah. Well, if, kind of let everybody know if nobody knows, if they've been under a rock for the last 5-6 years and don't know Working Class, kind of let everybody know where they're going to find you and the Working Class stuff.
Yeah. Just Working Class Bowhunter, Facebook, Instagram, Working Class Bowhunter podcast, Spotify, every podcast platform, YouTube. We have a video series on Carbon TV, and we also host the DeQuisto series podcast on our platform. So, which
DeQuisto series 1 is awesome as well. Both of them are great. I love that DeQuisto one. That one's good too.
Thank you.
Well, cool, man. Let's do this again. Appreciate you doing this, and yeah.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thank you.